everybody. How's it going today? My name is Ben Gothard, and today we are talking to Susanna Lancaster from Memphis, Tennessee. How you doing today, Susanna? So let's jump right into it. And the first question I have for you is, what is your story?
My story is that I'm a writer, and I've been writing pretty much as long as I can remember. I don't remember a time when I started writing. I've just always done it. And so I'm getting my first book published, and I'm super excited about that. So
Congratulations,
here.
congratulations. So maybe you could take us from more the beginning, more from your childhood, kind of where you came from, what kind of things you did growing up and how it ultimately led to you becoming an author.
Yeah, so as a kid, I was really, really shy and kind of nerdy. I really like to read and write, and that's kind of all I did. Um, you know, Other kids would go to parties or go outside and play, and I did some of that, but the main thing I liked to do was read, and I didn't really have any interest in TV. I mean, some, but not a lot. So, reading was always really, really important. And it was just kind of a family cultural thing. Um, Both of my parents were librarians, and my dad's been a librarian for like 35 years. And my mom was an English major. So this love for reading and writing kind of just came. It was just a very natural thing. So when I was in high school, I wrote like a ton and I wrote a lot of poems and stories. And then when I was in college, I still had this huge interest in writing. Um, it just never really faded. It never went away. So in all of my English classes, I always excelled, and it was just like the area that I was. It was like my best area. So I started doing creative writing, and that became my major at the University of Memphis. And it was during that time that I really started to write a lot. And everything I wrote was way longer than what it needed to be. So I would turn in these stories to class for workshop, and it would be, a short story. And my teachers would always say, "This is really, really great, but it's not a short story. This is a book, and you need to develop it. This could really be something great, but you need to make it longer and develop it into its full potential." So after college, I took a year off and spent a lot of time writing and just working like a ton of jobs. Just kind of the average, person who's in the early 20s. But I started looking around for graduate school programs and really wanted to go to graduate school. And I learned very quickly that writing for kids was the area that I cared the most about. So it was difficult to find a lot of programs that offer, programs that specialize just in writing for kids. It was difficult to find one. There's not that many. There's not that many of them out there. But I was able to find one that perfectly met everything I was looking for. It was Lesley University, and through that program, I just learned so much. Um, I really, really learned a whole lot and got to meet a lot of famous writers and just a lot of friendships that, I'm still maintaining to this day. A lot of people I'm still really close with. So it was through that program that I really kind of figured out who I was and what I wanted to do and what I cared the most about writing. And so the book that is being published was the book I used as my thesis when I was there at Lesley University.
That's awesome. That's great. So, I kind of want to dig a little bit more into your past and really kind of see where this love for writing came from. So, you said that both your parents loved reading and you were reading from an early age. And clearly, there's a link between reading and writing. Um, but where do you think that love for writing comes from? Is it a love for expressing yourself, or is it just an activity that you did all the time and then you fell in love with? Like, where does the passion for it truly come from?
I think that, yeah, it's definitely such a great way to express yourself. Um, and growing up, I was the middle of five kids, so it's a pretty big family. And everybody kind of had their niche, something that they were really good at, their area of specialty. And writing was always my area that I cared about, and it was like the area that made me unique and separated me from everybody else. And it was just really fun to write my own little stories. And when my dad came home from work, I'd be like, Dad, look what I wrote. Do you want to read it? And every day it turned into this thing where I had these new little stories and these things that I had illustrated. And it was just like my thing, the thing that made me special, the area that separated me kind of from everybody else. And I think that the love for reading it was really just, you can connect to people who are so similar to you and connect to kids that have the same problems going on, the same passions, the same areas of interest. And, you can connect so much better to a person on the page sometimes than you can in real life. And it was always really awesome to be like, wow, I'm reading about this character, that it's a book that the setting's 200 years ago, but hey, the kid has the same problems that I've got, or the same situation going on in her family, or the same area. So I could just connect so well with these characters. And I think that that's where it all kind of came from, was just really being able to identify with so many of the characters that I read about.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so, because of those characters, that kind of goes into my next question. How did you really decide that creative writing was your niche, if you will? Like did you try some non-creative writing, or how did it kind of happen that way?
I think creative writing was just always going to be my thing, because when something happens, I want to twist it. I want to make it into something better, or I know in my head how it could be. So I don't want it to just, I don't really want to tell it just exactly how it is. I want to change it, and I want to make it fit into something else. So that was always my thing. If I try writing something really honestly, then, or something exactly as the way it happened, it's going to get changed somehow. Like I can't just do it without altering it or adding in a line that makes it sound better, or, something that makes it appeal more to other people. So creative writing was just kind of always the option. It was always just my favorite area.
That's great. That's great. And I think that the fact that you found your passion and you recognize that, and now you're pursuing that, I think that's really inspirational to a lot of people. Because I think a lot more people, in my opinion, my humble opinion, I think a lot more people should be doing that.
Well,
Because I don't think it's about the money. I think it's about finding what you love to do and doing it. So if there was somebody who maybe wanted to be a writer or wanted to be an author, but didn't really know how to take that first jump, what sort of advice would you give to them?
I think my first advice would be recognize that you are a writer. Because growing up, I always had people ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do? And I would always say, oh, I want to be a writer. But at a really, really young age, probably 6 or 7 years old, somebody asked me that one day and said, well, what do you want to be? Or do you want to be a writer when you grow up? And it dawned on me, that's kind of a silly question because I already am a writer, so why would I want to be something that I already am? So I think just recognizing that if you love writing and that's something that you do, then you are a writer. You may not be a published writer, or you may not be, a writer that has a huge movie coming out, or, you may not be all over Barnes and Noble and be on the New York Times best-selling list, but you can still be a writer. And I think as long as you pursue that passion, then maybe all these other great things will come along too, if you just keep pursuing it. So my main advice would just be, don't give up. The competition's really, really great out there. It's really, really competitive, I think, in children's literature, especially because children's lit and YA lit sells really well. Um, but, I think if you just realize, don't give up, because, yeah, you may get, tons and tons of rejections, but there is somebody out there who will want your story. You may have to change it some, you may still have to do more work to get it to where it needs to be, but don't ever just give up, because if you like reading it, someone else out there is going to like to read it too.
Absolutely. And I think to what you said about not giving up, that holds true for almost anything that you want to do in your life. If you want to be an entrepreneur, do it. Keep going. Don't give up. If you want to be an author, just keep going. It doesn't really matter what people say, because if they're like, oh, you can't make it, you can't do it, you can't this, you can't that, well, you don't have to listen to them. Just keep on
Right.
going. Just do your thing. So I'm really glad you said that. I kind of want to touch a little bit on the children's books. Idea that you said that's where you thought you really that was where you wanted to specialize in. And if correct me if I'm wrong, but why did you go in? Why did you feel that? Or why do you feel that? What about children's books appeals to you?
I think that there's so much stuff that happens at a young age. That's the age where everything develops. That's the age where you really learn all the crucial things you're going to learn for the rest of your life. Those are the ages that set the tone for everything else. I mean, the problems, the things you're exposed to as a kid are greatly going to affect you as an adult, and it just kind of sets the tone for the rest of your life. And I think that writing for kids is so special because you can get these messages to kids. You can teach them things. You can help them find this place of safety and help them connect to your story in a way that they may not be able to with anything else. Um, and so it's just a really special thing, I think. It was such a great escape for me as a kid that that's what I like to do. That's what I want to do is give kids an escape too. So the book I'm writing right now is called The Growing Rock, and it's about a 14-year-old girl during the Great Depression. And 14 is such an important age. And 14 was kind of an age that I was advised against sometimes because 14 is an age that can be placed in the children's section of a bookstore, but can also be placed in the adult section of a bookstore. So there was this question of, how do you market it? And I see the point, but I also think that, it goes back to do what you want. And 14 is both. 14 is still being slightly a kid and, being a young adult. So 14 is a really, really awkward age, and I think it needs to be written about more. It kind of bothered me that there's not that many books about 14-year-olds. And that's kind of an age, if you are 14, you're probably going to have to wind up reading a book that's about a 12-year-old or a book that's about a 16-year-old. But there's very little for a 13 or 14-year-old. So I think it's just really important to kind of touch on all ages, even the awkward ages that nobody really wants to write or talk about because those ages kind of suck. So, uh, yeah. So I don't know. It's just kind of an interest that I have. It's just a passion I have with those areas that nobody else really wants to deal with.
Absolutely. And just from a marketing perspective, if nobody else is doing it, that means there's really no competition. So that's a great thing. So that's really cool. I do appreciate you sharing so much about your past. I think that really helps to teach and impact others positively. Positively is to be open and about that kind of stuff. So we talked about your past. You talked a little bit about what you're doing now. About your new book, but maybe you could go into more about what you're doing right now and in the current state. Are you still writing? Are you working? Like everything.
Yeah, so I'm still writing a lot. That's kind of all I'm doing. I teach as an adjunct professor of English, so that's really fun. I do that, a couple of times a week. That's been really exciting, and that's an area that I'm just really excited to be able to do with my life right now, and it's something that I really, really enjoy, and it's so neat to be able to connect people who are very close to my own age, but to be able to be both kind of a teacher, of course, but also, a mentor in many ways. So that's just been a really fun experience, and I'm excited to see where that will lead. But I'm still writing a lot. That's kind of the main thing I'm doing. Right now, I'm revising The Growing Rock and getting it ready for publication. I don't have a publication date, but I'm just still in the heavy revision process of it, and that's been super exciting.
Well, I do encourage everybody to check out the book. Whenever it does get published, we'll throw a link down below. So if you're watching this and it sounds like your kind of book, or you want to get some inspiration to write children's books or anything really, go check out the link below. And if it's not there yet, it's coming. That means it's probably getting picked up by a massive publisher or something. So be on the lookout below. So that's what you're doing right now. We touched a little bit on your past, um, but I want to talk about the future. What does the future hold for Susanna? What's kind of the 20-year goal, and how are you going to get there?
20 years, wow. That seems kind of crazy just because looking at like this past year, it's really crazy how fast everything can change and how many, good things can come your way when you're not expecting it. 20 years, wow. I hope to have many more books out. That would definitely be my goal is to have, more books published and more, different areas, different time periods in history that I can write about. Different ages, more awkward ages. I would definitely want to pursue all of that. Trying to think of the immediate future. I'm hoping I can teach full time. That's definitely something I want to pursue. I especially would love to be able to teach creative writing. Specifically, creative writing for kids would be awesome, but just any kind of creative writing with fiction would, definitely be something I want to do. Um, this next year, I'm getting married, so that's exciting. Planning.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot. I was working 3 jobs recently and writing the book and planning the wedding, so it's a lot, a lot of stuff going on at once, but good stuff. So all good
Absolutely,
things.
absolutely. So, um, I guess, I still kind of want to get a feel of where you want to go and where you're heading. So, I guess if you could say one goal, one humongous major goal that you have in your life, what is that goal? Like the one thing that you have to accomplish in your lifetime.
Publishing a book has been, I think, that number one goal for a really, really long time. Just being able to hold my book has been something that I've wanted. Because ever since I was a kid, I really wanted to get published and to see my name in print and to, be writing an acknowledgement page in the back of it. So just the fact that it is coming and that, a publisher did pick it up is really, really exciting. So right now, I'm just really looking forward to getting to like hold the copy of the book and have it. So, but right now, I'm still just like in shock that that's actually going to happen.
That is awesome, and again, congratulations on the
Thank
book.
you.
It's going to be really exciting. So, you know, I want to provide some value in this interview, okay? And I specifically want to help and try to motivate younger authors. So you gave a little bit of advice to those who are about to jump in, but what would you say are the skills that is that are needed to become a good author, or to the skills that you need to become an author?
I think surprisingly, it's kind of you either have it or you don't. But I think it goes back to that thing of knowing that you're a writer. I think when I hear people say I want to be a writer, I kind of think, oh, maybe maybe this isn't the right thing for this person because if you want to be a writer, it means that you're maybe not writing. It That's what it kind of implies to me on a first basis is maybe you're not writing if you want to be doing it. If you want to be doing it, then do it. So I think write as much as you can. Try to write every single day. If you just devote even 30 minutes to it every day, I think it really sharpens your skills and will help a lot. I think the other thing is um, don't be afraid to be honest. Um, I think before when I was younger, I sometimes made everything look really, really perfect in my stories. And then when I went to grad school, I had a really great mentor tell me that, you know, your story is too perfect, your character is too good. And your readers aren't going to connect as well to that. You need to make this character more real. So that's what I started to do. And once I did that, it kind of changed everything. And everything I'd been doing for years and years was, it really needed to be fixed because it needed to show flaw. It needed to show what people do wrong. So making your characters as realistic as possible, making them have problems, making them have arguments with their parents, having really real situations and just being honest about what you know and what you've learned um, is definitely one of the best things that I've learned as a writer. And I think the other thing is just don't be afraid. So, it kind of goes back to, you may not be the next J.K. Rowling, you may not have a huge movie deal, but don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Because I think somebody will want to read it. And if you enjoy writing and if you enjoy reading about these specific characters, then other people will too. There's a place for everything. And when you go to a bookstore, you'll find books that you think, I would never read this. How is this published? But it is because somebody likes to read it. So just never give up. Don't be afraid of putting yourself out there and don't be afraid of what people may say or what people may think. Um, because I think somebody is going to want it.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice that, again, applies to a lot of different aspects of life. If again, as an entrepreneur, if you're scared to go out and sell your product or service, it's not going to get sold. If as an author, you're scared to say, this is my book. I took the
Yeah.
time to write this. I put my heart and soul into this piece. Here it is. If you're not comfortable doing that, then I mean you gotta get your mindset right. And I think that's kind of going along with what you're saying. Is that you gotta get your mind right, and then the results will come. The money will come, the fame will come, whatever. And you may not be J.K. Rowling right now, and you may not have a movie deal right now, but how do you think she got there? Right? She
Right.
actually I've actually studied her a little bit, and she was living in her car for years before she had her big break, right? So everybody that has become successful as an author started off not successful. Okay? Everybody starts from the same place. You're not just gonna immediately get fame, and if you do, it's more than likely not gonna repeatedly happen. You gotta work at it and keep going and be fearless and all those things. So I'm really glad that you said that. But you also mentioned something about mentors, and I also think that's a huge part of any any sort of career, any sort of path that you choose, is to meet people who have already done that and allow them to show you the way. So could you maybe talk about one, the importance of mentors, and two, people who have been instrumental in your life?
Yeah, I've been really lucky to have several big people who have really impacted me and just, told me not to quit when I felt like quitting. And I think that that is always definitely really, really important. The first mentors that I had with writing definitely would have to be my parents, because they helped me have this passion for writing and reading, and they would always, bring books home to me and take me to the library, take me to the bookstore, have a little summer reading competition, and help me with all these little things. So they were always my first mentors, and they would always be the first to read everything I write, and they still to this day will read everything that I write and give me feedback on it. And some of our conversations are so weird. I'll be texting my dad and asking him, in 1937, would this have happened, or would people have said this? Do you know? And so it's still just an ongoing thing where I think there are always going to be people who are helping me and proofreading my stuff and just always supporting me with my writing. Um, the other people that have been a huge impact was a teacher that I had when I first started college. I was really, really young when I started my first college class. I was only 16, and I was still in high school, and I was a dual enrollment student, and it was just super awkward, and I couldn't drive yet. And I had this really great English professor who was just really, really a great teacher. One of those teachers who never, you just never forget. He kind of impacts you for the rest of your life. He was a really great professor, and he encouraged my writing greatly, and would always pick out these creative things that I had written upon, and was always praising my work and challenging me. And I had him for several semesters, and he always kept up. And he was always somebody who wrote my grad school letters and still supported me, and from time to time would ask me how's your writing going. So just knowing that that person was rooting for me always really helped make a difference. And then when I was a grad student at Lesley, I was really, really lucky to work with three amazing mentors. I had David Elliott, Susan Goodman, and Pat Lowry Collins, who have all written a lot of children's books, a lot of really good works. And each of them had something so unique to offer, and each of them taught me really important lessons. Um, David Elliott was the mentor who I mentioned before, told me, you need to make these characters more real. They need to be more realistic. And so that really, really helped tremendously and make a story that was kind of flat go to something that was a lot more lively and a lot more realistic. And then Susan Goodman and Pat Lowry Collins were the mentors who helped me with the book that's getting published now. And they both just helped so much. At first, there was a lot of revisions to do, a lot of stuff that needed to be changed. Um, but they were both very honest, and that was something that, sometimes it hurt or it was frustrating because I didn't want to redo everything I had just done. But I'm thankful that they were, sometimes tough on me because without that, it wasn't going to work, and it wouldn't be what it is now. So I was just really thankful. They were both really, really tough sometimes and said, no, I think you can do better. You need to rewrite this. You need to rewrite this scene. And there was one scene I rewrote probably 10 times that semester, but at the end of it, it was way better and it was where it needed to be. So without all the mentors I've had, I just wouldn't be where it is today.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, for people who are kind of just starting out, maybe they want to start writing or they've been writing and they want to try to get published or something, how would you advise them to find mentors and seek them out and go through the process of getting a mentor?
Well, I mean, hopefully people have mentors already. I think everybody does if they just really work hard enough. Even if you don't have mentors in your life who are really great writers and have great advice on writing, I think everybody has at least, one or two people in their life that they can go to, who will support you and listen to you and still be helpful in the emotional sense. So I hope that everybody has that. And I think everybody does if they just look hard enough. There's always a friend or a family member. There's someone who cares about you and who will encourage you and give you some of the support that you need. To find a mentor with writing, that can sometimes be a little bit more difficult. And I was really lucky to have the mentors I've had. But I think, if you have a teacher, a special teacher who's, an English professor or any kind of art teacher who can help you or, give you advice on what to do. Um, I would say for sure, if you can, go to a school that does appreciate art and that does have a strong program. So if you want to go to college, or grad school, I think, research it and try to find a program that will really fit you well and fit your personality. Make sure that it's got the areas of interest that you want, but make sure that, some of the professors who are working there are people you look up to. Maybe you've read some of their work and they seem like somebody who could really help you pursue what you want to do. I think the other area that's really important is social media. Social media is such a wonderful tool. I mean, we're using it right now. There's a lot of really good writers out there and a lot of good writing communities. I think, on Instagram, you can find people who like to write and people who have the same interest, or on Facebook, you can find people. And so I think don't be afraid to reach out, send a person a message and ask, do you want to do a writing workshop? And even if they don't live anywhere near you, you may be able to send stories to each other or do some kind of trade off and still get advice and feedback. So I think just don't be afraid, again, to put yourself out there, but always kind of be on the lookout for someone who may be able to help you and maybe you can help each other grow as writers.
And I think again, you said something that was brilliant. Don't be afraid to ask. If you're not gonna ask, then you're not gonna receive anything, right? And I'm not saying, and I don't think you are saying either, that you just ask everybody like help me, help me, help me, help me, help me. It has to be a give and take. You have to provide a little bit of value, and that value could just be sharing ideas and just talking about it, and really making a friend who can give you some advice. And so, I think it's really good. Those are some really good tips from you about how to find a mentor. So, I have one more question for you. This has been a great interview. I really do appreciate your time. But is there anything about yourself that you think is an important part of who you are that I missed? In other words, what did I miss? What did I miss?
Let's see. Um, well, um, trying to think if there's a really important part. Um, I don't know. Writing is the main area that is kind of who I am. But I think also I like to think of myself as a fighter, someone who's pretty strong and doesn't give up. Um, and writing has certainly been, a huge fight. You have to really fight for what you want. You face a lot of rejection. You face, sometimes a lot of difficulty with it. Sometimes it can be a huge thing, that causes a lot of heartache and a disappointment, but it's also a really wonderful thing. So I like to think of myself as a fighter with that. Um, and yeah, someone who's strong, someone who is fighting for what they want. That's what I try to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Susanna, I do want to thank you again for doing this interview. I really think that you shared a lot of great things, and that will be able to impact a lot of people in a positive way. So I do encourage everybody who's listening to, if you have any questions or comments or anything for the two of us, leave them in the comments below. And again, check out that link to Susanna's newest and first published book. If it's not there when you're looking at it, it will be there soon. So, check back regularly and grab yourself a copy. So, I can't wait to read it. I'm really looking forward to it. So, anyways, this has been another Project Egg interview. We've been talking to Susanna Lancaster from Memphis, Tennessee. Susanna, thank you so much.
Thank you.